Okay, we're gonna just make a short video here. I got a viewer that emails me fairly often with questions and what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And where can I get this or where can I get that? Things that he's seen on this channel, and I have no issue with that whatsoever. I have no issue with people asking me questions. You know, sometimes I don't have the answer. Sometimes I say, well, that's kind of like a personal choice or whatever. And I will say a personal choice is knives. I mean, he's recently asked me about, what should I get for a knife around the homestead or around the property or whatever, And the thing is that I've talked about knives a little bit here on the channel, and I am a knife guy. I love knives. I am not, I'm not a person that says, "Oh, that knife costs too much." No, I'm not one of those. I mean, I do have my limits. I won't pay. As a matter of fact, I will not pay $2,000 for a knife. I won't. I sold a knife for $3,000 once, and because it was a collectible. Person has a special collection, and they needed that knife for their collection because it was unobtainable, anywhere else. And when you have something that rare, you can ask a little bit higher price, but then that just increases the value of the collection that the guy has. So $3,000 may seem kind of like pretty steep, and it is. I would never pay $3,000 for anything when it comes to knives. I just wouldn't, unless I was made of money, and I'm not. But anyway, I think, under $2,000, up to $2,000 would be my totally upper threshold as far as any knife would be concerned. And man, I mean, I have never encountered any knife that was $2,000 that I wanted that bad. I mean, that's a crazy number, 2,000. I mean, I've spent over $1,000. I have spent over $1,000 on a knife, handmade, whatnot. This knife right here was, I think that this knife was like $300 or $400. I think it was in the $400 range. And this is the old Ventura days of cold steel. Yeah. It's got the Hamaguri convex blade, which what that means is that the edge starts at the spine. It's got a total curvature from the spine all the way down to the edge on both sides. They call that Hamaguri convex. You got convex and you got Hamaguri convex. Slightly different, both convex. They both achieve mostly the same results. But this is a Trailmaster in Sanmai 3. Yeah, Sanmai 3, VG1 Sanmai 3. This is a layered steel. You can see the layers. As a matter of fact, you can see the layers if you look at the spine. You can see 3 layers. I guess that's why they call it Sanmai 3, because there are 3 layers in this steel. It's very, very sharp. It's very, very nice. It's a large knife. Now, why did I bring this one out? Because I always carry a knife on property. So this fellow, I don't know what he does on his property. This is the reason why I talk about knives being a very personal thing. I'm not going to recommend anything in particular, in general, but I wanted to talk about this just a little bit because there are a lot of knives out there. Now, he sent me a knife in email. Now, I'm just going to tell you, I never buy cheap knives. Never. It's like buying a car or a watch or anything. I always buy nice stuff. But it's not just nice. I look at what the quality is versus the price. And generally things that are high quality are generally a more pricier item to purchase. You know, for like this knife I carry on the property, and I carry it because I have predators. I have predators in this area. You know, I've seen a mountain lion, I've seen lynx, I've seen bear. You know, it is what it is. You know, I have the courage in order to stand up to wild animals. But I want to do it with something that I can, you know, defend myself with. And this knife is long enough to penetrate deep enough. You know, if I get into a fight with something, I want to have, I want to have the ability to put a whooping on it quick. You know, and make it feel the bite, you know, of whatever I've got. Because if you just go with a little knife, it may not feel that. It may, you know, the adrenaline may be running, and it may not feel that you're attacking it with a small knife. You need something with some length, you know, and you need something that's very sharp and strong. You know, this fits the bill. This fits the bill. You know, it's enough. It's enough. It's not a sword, but it's enough to let that creature know, hey, maybe I may want to rethink this and not attack this guy. You know, maybe I want to go away. That's the whole idea. Make him go away. You may not get him. You may not even want to get him. You know, I personally would not want to hurt a bear. Don't care so much about a mountain lion, you know, because mountain lion's actually pretty good meat. Tastes like pork chops. Yeah. So, but, you know, guys asked for my recommendation on knives. You know, I mean, what's the purpose? You know, what's your purpose? In this case, my purpose is self-defense on the property. You know, and this is what I carry on the property. You know, it is quote-unquote an expensive knife, but I know it's not going to break. You know, if I get into it with something, this knife ain't going to break. You know, other people will say, well, why don't you carry your knife? Blah, blah, blah. You know, the knife that's on the market that I designed. And, you know, I love that knife. It would be great, but that is a medium-sized knife. It's an all-arounder. It's made for the woodsman, bushcraft, and survival and whatnot. This knife is more of a fighting knife. This is like a fighting, an occasional bushcraft. right? I mean, you could use this knife for bushcraft if you need to, but it's designed for fighting, you know. Fighting is its primary purpose. Secondary is bushcraft. Bushcraft and survival is its secondary purpose. So, I mean, I don't have it here. I used to keep a machete here, but a machete is a great tool for around the homestead, around the property. You know, machete is, if you get a good one, don't get a cheapie, but don't get a super expensive one. You can get a good machete for, you know, a very reasonable price, you know, and it's got enough, if it's got enough length on it. You know, I've got an old cold steel Magnum kukri that I have very sharp. I sharpened it myself. It's full convex. It's a hair shaving sharp machete. Sometimes I carry that on the property. You know, in addition to this, you know, if you want something like that. In South America, I carried a Tramontina machete. I think it's like 18 inches long or something, just a bolo. But if you're going to carry a machete for just doing basic yard work stuff, you know, carry another knife with you. Carry another knife with you. You know, you got to tailor everything to your needs. I don't know what you need. I don't know what you need. You got to tailor things to your needs. That's just the way it is. If you know, I can't make decisions for you about things like that. You got to do that. But parameters, you know, if you're going to be basically doing yard work, you know, machete and a knife. If most of the time you're going to be just carrying, you know, something for self-defense, carry you a fighting knife. You know, fighting is the primary purpose. Now this knife can be used for survival and bushcraft both, but the primary purpose for this knife is fighting. Now this is my cold weather fighting knife, right? So if it came down to a Minuteman scenario, this would be on my belt kit, and it would be ready to be deployed, you know, primarily as a fighting knife in the cold weather. So autumn and winter, the Cold Steel Trailmaster is my primary fighting knife, right? You got to remember too, when you got predators, now they're introduced wolves here a bit back, and they got coyote wolves, hybrids. They got wolves, they got coyotes here, you know. So animals get hungrier in the winter. Got to be ready. You know, some people say, well, just carry a gun. You know, that's the problem. You know, in the United States, not every state has the same ability to do as other states. That's a problem. I have a very big problem with that. That it's not equal across the states. I've already talked about gun stuff in other videos, just these past 2 or 3 videos. So I'm not going to revisit that. But there are some people that, you know, why don't you just carry a shotgun? You know, why don't you just carry a 45-70? You know, again, that's a personal choice, and it depends on where you're at. Where you're at, and how nosy and anti-gun people are. You know, if you live in Montana, then you are, you know, in a great place to carry a shotgun, you know, around your property because, I mean, why not? You got gun. It's a gun-friendly state. It's a knife-friendly state. You know, and you need to keep it that way. By the way, you need to keep it that way and keep the liberal scum out of your public offices. And you need to step up. You need to step up and inhabit those offices so that nobody from the left can get in there. You know, that's what you need to do. Keep the lefties out of office. I mean, it's a survival thing anymore. It's a survival. You got a place like, let's say, New York State, mostly being controlled by only a couple of little small areas in the whole state. New York is a huge state, and the New Yorkers that live in upstate are not the same people as the people in Albany and New York City. They're not. They're regular old folks who are being controlled by a very small minority of people in their state. They need to get rid of those scumbags. Like their governor is a total freaking hose bag. Anyway, they need to get rid of her. She's a total piece of crap. Man, I thought the other governor before her was bad. This woman makes him look like a like a very saintly guy. She's bad. Anyway, this is not a rant about New York's governor, although it could be, because you know she deserves every negative comment that she gets. She has totally ruined that state. I mean, I didn't think it could get any more ruined than it was. You know, when old what's his face was in office, Cuomo. That's who it was, Cuomo. I never thought it could get any worse than when he was in office. I'm not a New Yorker. I don't like New York. I don't like New York mostly because of their politics. But there are good people in New York. They're just not in Albany, and they're not in New York City. There's some good people on Long Island. You know, there are actually a lot of Republican people on Long Island. Believe it or not, there are deer on Long Island. I've seen them. You know, but I've been all over the northeast part of the country. I've seen the geography a bit and talked to the people. But being a New Englander, it's my duty to like rag on New York. That's New Yorkers, you know. That's the duty as a New Englander to rag on New York and New Yorkers in general. But don't take it personal. It's just traditional. It's just tradition, right? Okay. Yeah. But getting back to knives, I think I'm going to shut it down. There's not a whole lot I could say other than knives are a very personal choice, and you have to choose. I mean, if you're going to be like, you know, it depends on the person. What kind of person are you? You know, I'm not into like having a lot of stuff that's just for show. You know, as far as like tools go, I use them. You know, I use tools like this watch. This watch is, you know, I've used it for hiking and stuff like that. I mean, it's a 24-hour watch. You know, it's an astronaut watch basically, or for a pilot or an astronaut. You know, I mean, a friend of mine gave me this watch. It's very cool. I like it a lot. This particular type of watch was used by Pete Conrad on Apollo 12. Okay. You'll notice I got a compass on here, you know, which is quite accurate. Sun brand compass, made in USA. So, yeah. But it's a tool. It's a tool. This knife is a tool. You know, take care of your tools, and your tools will take care of you. Well, you guys got any questions about knives or anything else? Drop me a line. Be more than happy to try to accommodate your question, and you know, keep looking up, because Jesus is almost here. He's almost coming back. I mean, we are at that time. We are in that time period right now. We are in the last 60 seconds. We are 1 minute to midnight, and we are almost going home. I can't be yawning right now. I got work to do. Time to get the chipper out. Right after I upload the videos. Alright? Guys got any questions or whatever? Drop them. Email is up above in the header. You know, that's all you got to do. Don't be shy. Don't be nervous. Blah, 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 blah. Drop me an email. You never know. Catch you later.